Good morning and welcome back to the Vision Alignment Show, where we all understand how important it is to recognize that we all have blindness in our lives. Blindness, that's a hard word for me to say right now. So we all have blindness in our lives, and we understand that having a vision is very important, but understanding how that vision should be connected, or at least in a line, hence the Vision Alignment Show, aligned with your core beliefs, your core values, and your core strengths. So that is why I have on a very special guy today who's going to talk more about his vision and more about how things are going for him and for all of us in these almost post-pandemic times. Dave Caperton.
Hey!
Brian,
I'm on Brian Wagner's show.
La-dee freaking die.
On a resume, Brian. Regular guest on the Radical Vision Show.
Yeah.
Brian Wagner.
Well, it's awesome. Thank you very much for being on, Dave. So tell me, Dave, what do you think is going on this month? Is there a certain title for this month? Is it
you know what?
Basket weaving day or something like that?
It's one of my favorite things. It's National Humor Month. April is National Humor Month because it starts, April Fool's Day, right? April 1st, which also happens to be my son's birthday. So we started off with celebration anyway. And it's always a big deal at our house, So
awesome.
So anyway, so humor is kind of that's been my whole life has been all about just a couple of things. I was a teacher and I did stand-up comedy, and so everything that I've done in my life for my stand-up, I also did some cartooning and things like that. But it's really been about two questions. How do we learn? Why do we laugh? And I've learned that there's a lot of connection between those two, and that sometimes we minimize the value of humor in ways that we don't really see all the benefits of what humor provides for us as a way to cope, as a way to be resilient, and and besides that, it's fun. I've been watching a lot of daytime TV. I didn't even know there were, I didn't even know that there were
soap operas.
What's that?
Soap operas?
I didn't even know there were still soap operas until the pandemic. I had no idea because I didn't turn on the TV during the day. And now I sit down and turn on the TV and you're like, son of a gun, right? They've got, the bold and the beautiful, the young and the restless are still on. They're still in production. And there are still some of the people who are on there. And you know what? I've learned something about humor, and that is it feels good when you're young. You need it when you're old. Because I was always watching these daytime soaps. I thought, if I would have become an actor at this point in life and just, get a role on a show like that, I guess I'd have to be either restless or bold, right?
If you want to hear more, stay right there. Awesome. Very cool. So what a great way to kick us off. Now, as always, share this video out with as many people as you can, all of you listeners that are out there. So share this. And Dave, you can share it too. But also, I want to remind you to be entered into the raffle. You can take a picture of yourself winking. And when you wink, I want you to think, man, if this guy next to me, meaning me, if this guy knows what makes him unique and it's not his eye, I wonder what makes me unique. So that's an important part of the whole process. So share the video out, wink in the picture, hashtag of Brian with one eye, hashtag of winking without Wagner, and then tag me on the picture so I see it. And then if you would, please go out to brianwagner.live, brianwagner.live, and I'll put that up here in a minute, and let me know, or just fill out the form in there. And you'll be registered for Vision Insights, which is more information you're going to be getting from me going forward. So thank you for that. Oh, and also, always put in hashtag live if you're telling me where you're coming from. Just put in where you're coming in from, and then a hashtag replay if you're listening on replay. Wow. That's a lot.
My head's exploding, Brian.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. So
tell me, Dave, how else do you look at life? You know, with those two things in mind that have helped you. How have they helped you?
About how do we learn? Why do we laugh?
Yeah,
it's certainly been that's the journey. You know, for me, has been my journey as an educator, trying to find effective ways to help other people grow. And that was true when I was in the classroom teaching high school students. And it has been true on my journey these past 2 decades plus on the platform, working with organizations, trying to teach the simple choices that they can make and why they need to make them to make joyfulness an intentional part of their culture, why that makes a good success strategy. But I realize that you got to, before any real learning takes place, what happens? People have to be open, right? There's no point in trying to go through a closed door, right? That door has to be open first. And that's where the humor, I think, has been an important part of why I continue to make that a huge part of my programs. I know that people have to emotionally open the door to the possibility of new ideas. And when people laugh, they swing open, right? And at that point, there's an open channel that gives us an opportunity. And it's true any place where you're trying to teach important skills or processes or new ideas or challenge thinking, is if you can open that emotional door. Because haven't you had somebody, maybe they really may have had something valuable to teach you, but for whatever reason, you were closed off from it. Yeah. And whether you thought, I already know this stuff, right? So I'm closed. Or I thought, I don't like this person. There's something about them kind of, I'm put off by them. They remind me of somebody I don't like. But there may be 100 different reasons why the doors are shut. But then all of a sudden, if somebody makes you laugh, they make you see the world in its absurdity, or they poke a little fun at themselves, and suddenly we laugh with them, at them, and you feel that opening occur, and you realize now they can receive a message, right? So that's where it's been important for me.
Yeah, that's very appropriate and very perfect for what I just experienced yesterday. So I had a conversation on the phone with a guy, and we were talking about my speech and how things were going, and some of the things that I was encountering. And he said, just lean into it. Just go forward with it, and let people know what's going on with you, and get them to a point where you can have a little fun with it. So he encouraged me to, because part of my speech is reading this letter that I received from my daughter, and that is not, there's a funny part to that letter. So it is moving. It's very interesting to hear. But the funny part of that letter is probably the self-deprecating part that I put in without really even knowing it, because I'm somebody told me I'm funny, but I don't really try.
Not funny, on purpose. But
and I think that's funny in itself.
It is. It is. I think we're more likely to laugh with hey, Linda's on.
Hey, Linda.
Laugh with
Good morning, Linda.
People who they don't even know that they're saying something that's making us laugh. How they are, just their whole manner. There's something, and then what's that translate to? I like this person. I just like this person.
Right. Because they seem so down to earth, people say.
Right. And I mean, what this person, I don't know who it was, but told you, hey, lean into it. I think that's great advice. Lean into it. Because what they're really saying is be as boldly transparent as you can by just being as honest and open with the people you serve as you possibly can, even to the point that other people would find uncomfortable. Because that's really what authenticity is. It's just saying, look, this is who I am, where I am, what I am. Here are my flaws. And I'm not trying to hide those from you. And I think those, that's what makes you effective, right? Because it builds connections, right?
Yeah. So I'm along this process because I'm trying to get better myself in the whole speaking and serving other people. So I want to make sure that I'm doing everything in that vein. So for our listeners out there, how important is that for you? Because you've been doing this a lot longer than I have. But how important is it for you to be able to do that? And how does it make you feel when you're in that mode?
You mean when and what in what mode? The one where
in the mode of being yourself, being transparent. Maybe it's just who you are.
Well, I think it may not be who you are. It may be what you. It is about being authentic and who you really are. But being able to be transparent and vulnerable and open to the point that other people, you're inviting them to sometimes laugh with you, at you, that sometimes is something you have to learn, because there's a comfort level you have to get to. Our natural inclination is to try to hide. We want to hide all of our flaws. I do, right? I mean, what I like about Zoom, which I don't so much like about StreamYard, on Zoom, you can touch up your appearance. Right?
Really?
I can go there with a little button. Oh yeah, go into video settings, right?
Wow.
I've got this thing set on, like full Chuck Grassley mode. I've just got it like,
Who?
It's a political guy. Okay, so Iowa Senator. Never mind. But anyhow, he's very old. I've got this thing set so that it makes me look better, right? Now I get on here, it's just, this is high definition old. But so I don't like it, because my natural inclination is, hey, I see a flaw. I'd like to hide that flaw, right?
I have a little something here.
I was like, the shirt, I should have pressed it, right? And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with wanting to look your best, want to present your best.
I'm always worried about my hair.
It looks good, Brian. It looks good.
Good, thanks.
So I do plenty of these things, trying to hide the flaws and minimize them all I can, the way I speak and what I think and what my education. But there also is a point at which we're trying to hide who we really are, and that's an inclination that if we give into, some people are going to be sensitive enough to see through it, right? Mm-hmm. Humor allows me to be more of who I am, right? It allows me to say, hey, I'll laugh first and allow you to laugh with me. I'm able to present my imperfections, which helps raise the level of trust. Because if I tell you, hey, here's my flaws, aren't go ahead and have a chuckle, right? And whether I tell you a mistake I made, some failure or embarrassment that I've suffered, something like that, but I don't tell it as a tragic character. I tell it as it's funny, right? Mm-hmm. Instead of it minimizing my impact and credibility, it will raise the credibility. It will improve my level rather of trust with the people I'm sharing it with. Because people know that, hey, I can trust somebody who doesn't mind, because I know I believe that I'm seeing who they are. Brene Brown, who has done all the TED Talks about vulnerability and how to be vulnerable, is really touching a nerve with people, because she's saying something that most of us really do struggle with. I directed plays when I was a high school teacher, and man, you talk about, so many failures and funny stories that come from that, and I won't get into all those, but I mean, I got a box of those stories, a big box of funny things that happened, and when I was first starting out and I was a younger teacher, and I wanted it all to be perfect, right? And then I started to realize, like, hey, this is high school. These kids most of them are not going on to be professional actors. The fun is what they're having. And let's try to do all we can to do as good a show as we can. But accept the imperfections as part of, hey, that's what made it all endearing and a fun memory to share. Because think about it, Brian, you can think of humor as a way to celebrate imperfection. And I think we've had a whole year of just a lot of imperfection, right? Mm-hmm. How do you celebrate imperfection? Because imperfection is what really makes for unique experiences, right? Imperfection is what makes for a unique personality, right? We look at people who are standards of, beauty and excellence and perfection on magazines. And there was a really famous model who did some acting. She was big in the 1960s and 70s, but she became so well known. Her name was Lauren Hutton, and some people will have to remember her, Lauren Hutton. Mm-hmm. But she famously had this huge gap between her two front teeth. Really? Gorgeous human being, gap in the two front teeth, right? Like this David Letterman type gap. Right?
Yeah. Michael Strahan. Huh? I heard Michael Strahan got rid of his.
Yeah, and I think that was a mistake, because they asked Lauren Hutton, they said, well, now you're a really, well-known model. Why in the world do you keep that gap? Why don't you get that closed up? You have it bonded, and told her all the things she could do. She said, that gap is why I'm a supermodel, right? Huh. Because I don't really she didn't, in her mind, think she had the looks that were really on par with some of the other ones, but she had a uniqueness, and the uniqueness was in what some people saw as, well, that was a flaw. I'm like, no, man, she leaned into that, right? And I think that's part of what humor does. It celebrates sometimes the imperfection, and it's ways that you say, hey, this is really what's special about it, right? But I used to tell the kids on stage, they'd get on stage and they'd be timid, and if you see somebody who's a really great actor and you see somebody who's an amateur actor, does anybody need to tell you the difference? No, right? Somebody's not good at something, it shows, right? But they're not experienced, or they just don't have that confidence. But I remember I used to tell the kids, one of the best pieces of acting advice that I could give them, because I'm not much of an actor myself, was I would tell them this. I said, when you're on that stage, you can't hide. And your attempts to hide make you look amateurish, right? Mm. The biggest difference, I think, between the pro and the amateur is the amateur is so self-conscious that they're trying to hide by doing small movements, and they're trying to, they're not speaking out as loud, because they're still trying to kind of hide. But you're right there on stage and everybody's looking at you. And it's your attempts at hiding that end up being what harms your performance. But if you can break out of that And if I say, hey, I need you to speak loudly, and they speak loudly, right? I need you to make a big gesture. And they don't go like this, but they go, hey, and all of a sudden people go like, wow, I'm buying this, right? So I think that's what, that's what leaning into it is. It's saying, I'm here and I'm present in this moment. And if there are imperfections, I'm not going to let it stop me. I'm going to show you those things. We will laugh about it. And I think what happens is the people who do that, and they get past all the timidity and they get past all of the trying to hide their flaws and imperfections from others, and they use humor as kind of their way to lubricate, let's say, the friction that they feel inside from doing that. Go ahead and laugh, right? People connect with that. They open to that.
I think that is absolutely awesome, because I mean that's really what I've tried to do, and hopefully I've done well with that. But I mean there are certainly times where you just don't know if what you're doing is right. So maybe you just laugh about that. Maybe you make fun of that. Maybe you do something different. I don't know. What's the right?
You've answered yourself, Brian. I mean, you already, first of all, you disarm people because you say things like, Brian with one eye, right?
Yeah.
And what you do is you immediately, with humor, you take that right off the table for them to be concentrating on, so they can hear your message, right? And so you say, look, I see what you see, right? And what you're curious about. So I'll make a joke about it, and that will allow you to go, oh, okay,
he's
right?
okay with it.
Yeah, okay. But I think, that is really what I think folks, they respond to that because, first of all, it puts it at a little more ease. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We know how to process what somebody else is able to say, hey, I do that with, my age, right? I know sometimes I'm in a group of people, I'm the oldest guy in the room, right? And especially in the audiences, why are they getting so young? So I know if I get up and I don't address that, then I realize that that could be an obstacle to them hearing the content that I believe could help them, right? Mm-hmm. But if I say something like, I make something that's a little self-deprecating about my age. Somebody asked me the other day, they said, you're a boomer. I said, I think of myself as mid-century modern. I always, because, it just helps kind of, it helps people deal with the one thing that could be an obstacle to them hearing, to really listening to what I really do have that I think could help. So that's what you do when you do the Brian with one eye and you wink and all those things. You're saying, hey, let's just dispense with this, right? Let me pluck this, what you've noticed out of your head, and let's have a little laugh about it. And then you know what we can do? We set that aside, right?
And then we go on and we learn from there.
Yeah, right.
And hopefully with humor, it opens them up, or humor works as well as emotion, any kind of emotion, right? It opens them up to learning. Is that right?
Yeah. I think it opens the door to them being, because when you're emotionally open, right? When you hear a comedian and they're funny, right? Mm-hmm. At first, you may go, this person doesn't look funny. Doesn't look like they're going to be funny. They're going to make me laugh, right? And then they say something that you recognize in yourself, or they recognize about the world, how crazy it is right now. Mm-hmm. And you got to go, well, yeah, that's true, right? And then they say something about themselves, maybe that makes us laugh at their expense.
Yeah.
So now we've accomplished two things, or that person who's made us laugh has accomplished two things. They've told us something that made us laugh about the world we live in. Mm-hmm. And so we're in agreement, we're in alignment with them on at least that point, right? Mm-hmm. And they've made us laugh maybe about themselves, which makes us like them more and trust them a little more, right? Mm-hmm. And when we accomplish that, you just have to think of it as the door is now open. Now what goes through that open space, that place. And so, I've worked with a lot of different bureaus who book me. And, naturally, whenever you're dealing with a bureau person, they want to be able to tell the potential client, here's what you can expect from the speaker, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had a bureau person call me and they said, we had a question from this client, and they know that humor is a big part of what you do, Dave, but they were wondering what the percentage was. I said, percentage, right? He said, well, I told him I thought you were about 30% humor, 70% content. Well, I do come with an ingredients label on the side of it.
Sure. But the humor is the content.
No, right. But I am low sugar. I don't know. But what they meant by that, and I was kind of amused myself. And I said, 70-30, that's my breakdown. And I said, look, here's what I would say. I'm 100% content.
Mm-hmm.
Right? My programs are 100% content that are wrapped and dipped in humor. All right. I think laughter is just a delivery method, right? I can learn things while I'm laughing. It's not like now we're done with that part.
Yeah.
Now get to some real stuff.
Right. Like we segment these things up.
Right. We make these artificial separations between this is serious, so therefore this has important, value. And this other part just makes people laugh. Right? And I think, no, think of some of the wonderful teachers that you've had. If you're fortunate enough to have had some good teachers, some of the most effective ones. Now, some of them were really serious, right? But we knew they cared a lot, and they were very sincere, and they were very passionate about their subject matter, and so they were great. But some of the teachers that were really good were because they were able to make us laugh and get us emotionally engaged. Yes, I see the comment here about
who is that?
He's a creativity expert and a happiness expert. He's the one. Is he the one who came up with the idea of flow? I asked Dr. Patrice, Dr. Grayson.
She'll let us know.
I think I won't even attempt to pronounce his name. Csikszentmihalyi or something.
You know so much more than I do. It's not even funny. Well, this is great. And as always, we're already at about the end of our time. So, what can we leave people with in the last minute or so here that we have them?
Well, I would say, first of all, time flies when I'm having fun.
Because this has been fun for you.
I have no idea if it's passing quickly for
others. Perfect.
But you know what? Let's leave them with just, a couple things. First of all, this being Humor Month, I think is a good time to reflect on. We're hopefully getting near the end of this epic of 1 year of pandemic lockdown. I've had my second shot. I'm counting the days till I'm 2 weeks out. And, we're looking at, okay, now we can start looking at the next thing. But let's not forget the lessons of what we have learned. And one of the lessons I think we've learned is that our flexibility is really our strength, right? Strength in how we've been flexible through this, how we bent along with all the changes, but we haven't broken, right? So humor allows us, it's that infusion that keeps us flexible, right? It keeps us able to adapt. And sometimes that means I use it in ways to control what I couldn't control otherwise, right? We haven't had any control for a while.
Right.
And sometimes it's a way that I just use self-deprecating humor to lower my own stress, to not take myself so seriously, to flow. Yeah, okay, I was right about that. Yay! Okay. I will take obscure scholars for 400, Alex. But Anyway, so it's a wonderful tool. It's a wonderful tool to connect you to other people. It's a wonderful tool. We didn't even get into all the things about how it helps relieve stress and keeps us, from succumbing to what could overwhelm us otherwise. But just in this one thing we've talked about today, it connects us with people. It opens doors. When we can aim it at ourselves, it builds trust.
Right.
That's a good place to start.
Just don't aim it at somebody else.
Yeah, you know what? I think that is always important. You got to have a little disclaimer here. Always never punch down, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to poke fun at anybody, poke fun at you. You probably won't cross any cultural, sensitive lines if you just poke fun at yourself. And, make sure that all of your humor is really compassionate and inclusive. It's not to ridicule and it's not to hurt someone. The idea is to include someone and allow them to laugh with you. And the safest way to do it is say, laugh with me, at me.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Thank you so much for joining me, Dave. This has been awesome. Hopefully you'll come back next week and we'll continue.
Yeah, we'll talk about the other part of humor, which is, how we cope and our coping.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Thank you. I appreciate it. Take care. All right. We'll see you soon, Dave. Hang out in the green room for me if you would. I'd love to talk to you a little more.
All right.
All right. Thanks. Woo! What a show. What a show. What a show. I love it. So tomorrow we have another Vision Alignment show at 10 o'clock. So that'll be with me, and we'll be talking more about, we're going to tell some stories. So that'll be great. Look forward to that. And then at 11:30 tomorrow, we have, Lisa Hain was coming on, but she is not anymore. So we're actually looking at having a different guest for that, or maybe just me again. So not just me. It's not never just me. Anyway, it'll be great to have you all back on. I'm looking forward to seeing you. And as always, keep one eye on the road. Thank you. Goodbye. See ya.